I will find you. You will ask, what will you do when they find me? Don't be scared of yourself.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ashley.
We would like to welcome you to the Work It, You Are Worth It podcast.
We're two friends sit around and talk about healing, growth, and healthy relationships.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Dawn. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We're recording on a Wednesday today.
And why? And why is that?
Because I get to go on an amazing cruise this weekend. Yay! I'm so excited. It is very, very exciting.
Where are you going this time?
So we are going to the Bahamas.
Okay.
Bimini, Nassau, and Freeport.
Oh, wow. And it's a full week, right? Full week.
It is. It is a full week cruise. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I need it, right? Because on a 3-day, by the time you get to the relaxation point and letting go of the rest of it, now you're back at sea or back at the boat on land.
Yeah.
And 5 days is still, by the time you get into it, you're heading back. And I know for me, when I was heading back, I was like, oh, it's almost over. So a 7-day is just perfect, right? You get 3 days to let go of everything and to work through letting go of everything. And then you have 2 days where you're just totally, completely relaxed. And then you had 2 days to come back.
Oh, that sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. I need a vacation that isn't like to my kids or...
Right. And that was what this was, right? Like... Every year I go on vacation, and I use that with air quotes because I take the kids and we go see family.
Yeah, right.
Go visit my dad in Maine, or go see the brother in New York, or sister in New York, or family in Florida, or, right, every time we go on a vacation, it is to visit somebody somewhere. For the first time 2 years ago, I went on vacation with my best friend, and her and I went to Ireland. And it was just... Like, the vacation itself was spectacular. Mm-hmm. But to go on a vacation to do something for me that I wanted to do, it was very, very rewarding. It felt like an extremely loving thing to do. And so, ever since then, I have determined that at least once a year, I am going to take a vacation that is a vacation for me. A vacation that I enjoy, where I get to relax and recoup and refresh myself.
I love that because, like I said, it's last couple of years have been going to Texas, moving to, Dylan to Texas, going to Texas to see him, and I'm still, I'm at his apartment, still cleaning his apartment and cooking cooking food, and I'm like, it's not a vacation.
That's not vacation.
No, and I'm like, I need a vacation, and I would even spending it with them would be fine, but it would be, I just want to be where I don't have to be responsible for cooking and cleaning.
You live in Florida. You could take a 3-day cruise for $500 and have a 3-day vacation where you don't have to think about a thing.
I know I could. I've never been on a cruise ever.
Wow, that's crazy. They have like little ones that don't really go anywhere. They just go out into the middle of the ocean and turn around and come back.
Yeah, I get seasick on big boat. So we did a gambling cruise for Dylan's 18th birthday. It's been 10 years ago, and I literally missed the entire thing because I had got stuck sitting at a table because that was the only place I wouldn't throw up.
Yep.
Because I needed the horizon.
Yeah.
So I'm a little, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to, for me, I don't know if I want to do just like, it's going to be a thing. So it's like.
So we bought a box of motion sickness patches for that exact reason.
Okay. Because I would go to the doctor and do that whole, because I'm like, I can't get sick.
Yeah, no, my 12-year-old gets car sickness when we travel. So if I go up north where it's quite hilly and up and down, she tends to get car sick. And so I have no doubt that she will have some sort of motion sickness. I myself actually had some seasickness on my last cruise. But I had the little motion sickness patches that go behind your ear. Or like there's other places you could put them too. I just put mine behind my ear. And they worked so well, I didn't have any trouble once I put one on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why we're recording on a Wednesday.
We can always get off topic.
Right, always. Well, and the plus side of recording on a Wednesday is it makes it so easy to come up with a topic, right?
Yeah.
Because we've been at work all day. We've done nothing but interact with myself, a few hundred people all day long. And, you know, I can tell you today has been one of those days where life just does what life does. And I had to work really, really hard to not take it personal, like to not make it be some big conspiracy theory where everybody was against me.
I have those days as well sometimes, just where it's like nothing goes right, and oh, this person this and this person, and it's always right. It's something, this conspiracy theory that it's about me, and half the time it's not.
Well, and today it was even a little different than that, right? Because for me, things weren't going wrong. Like the things that I had to do were successful. They were going mostly right. It was like other people were not being successful with what they had to do, and then they had attitudes, or they needed resources, or they were mean and snappy, or because they didn't get done what they needed to, I had to pause on what I needed to do. Like, it wasn't even that my stuff was unsuccessful, or that things weren't going right for me. It's that things for the people around me that I had to interact with weren't going right. And because of things not going right for them, they felt some type of way. And I had to work really, really hard not to allow their negative feelings to impact me.
So trying not to take on their feelings.
Right. Like there was one interaction today where the guy didn't like what I said, and he didn't like my answer, and so he kind of snapped back, and he was real assertive about it. And I kind of giggled a little bit as I walked away from him. And it really upset him. But I wasn't bothered by it. And yet still somehow, after I walked away from him, I felt myself try to be frustrated, even though it really didn't frustrate me.
Okay. So frustrated that he was frustrated, or frustrated because you were feeling his frustration?
I'm not really sure. Because I think frustrated because his attitude, his tone, right? He didn't like what I said, so he got frustrated, and so I tried to get frustrated back, kind of thing.
Okay. Because I think there's a difference, right? And there's two things that I'm sure sometime in this we'll talk about both of them, right? Where we can take on other people's feelings. So you would take on his frustration.
And I don't think that's what it was. And it wasn't even like I tried to snap back at him. Like I said, I giggled and I walked away, right? Like I kind of laughed it off and walked away like it was no big deal. And then after the entire thing ended and I had walked away, I start replaying what happened in my mind, and I want to be frustrated by the situation.
Okay.
Right? And then I had to remind myself, like, wait a minute. I don't need to be frustrated. He's frustrated. That's that situation. That has nothing to do with me.
Right.
So what if he had a tone or an attitude? I'm not even interacting with him anymore. I don't need to bring that on myself.
Why do we do that? Because I do that a lot myself. Like, right, that's scenario that happened with this person, right? Still thinking about it afterwards and replaying it in our heads. Because I do that. And it's like, and then, right, then I worry about maybe I said something, or I get frustrated because they said something, and it's like, it's over and done with. Why do I even care?
That's a good question. I don't know why we do it. I think we do it without even thinking about it. I know for me, at least for me today, that's what it was. I was wrapped up in replaying situations after they happened and having feelings about them before I even knew I was doing it. And so I was working really hard for most of the day today to bring myself back out of that.
Okay. Because I find myself And told you earlier I had something exciting, and I'm really excited about something that I found out at work today, and I'm very happy about it. But I won't find myself playing that over and over in my head, right? I'll just be excited,
Right.
I'm happy, but I'm not going to replay that conversation that I had with my supervisor over and over and over in my head. But I would replay a situation that went negatively in my over and over in my head. Why? I don't
think we do
understand
that with everything, not just
Yeah.
work, but like relationships and children and
Yep.
things we're grateful for. If it's a good thing, we think about it once, we take it, we let it go. If it's a negative thing, we think about it, we flip it over, we look at the bottom, we look at the top, we look at the left and the right, we set it down for a minute, we walk away, pick it back up, see if we missed something.
Yep, I'm gonna lose sleep over it. I'm not gonna lose sleep over my excitement today. But I would lose sleep over something that went negatively.
Right. Had you been told the opposite news of what you were told,
Right.
right? Then you would have lost sleep over it. You'd be replaying that conversation nonstop, probably replaying the last year of work, trying to figure out if there was something you could have done differently to get the news you wanted.
Exactly. I would have complained about it to you. Like, we would have done this podcast. I would have been complaining about it. I would have, after this, I have another call. I'll complain about it then. Would complain about it tomorrow. And, just I almost like keep it alive. And I think I never thought about it that way before.
I think you just found your payoff for it, right? It's keeping that negativity alive. It's holding on to that frustration, holding on to that anger, which a lot of times feels powerful.
Right.
Holding on to that self accountability where we can beat ourselves down because we're not good enough. And even though it's a subconscious payoff, right? We don't think about that as really a payoff, but that's our survival instincts. And if our subconscious believes we're not good enough, then we're going to replay everything that tells us we're not good enough.
And for me, replaying stuff over, the course of my lifetime up until, I found recovery, it served me well, right? I mean, it wasn't healthy. It was not good for me, my body physically. It wasn't productive. However, I learned to navigate that so well that it did serve me well because I knew what to do with it.
But you're not in that anymore,
Exactly.
right? It served you well for what you needed it to serve you for.
Yep.
And that's great. If you drive a dirt bike on a dirt path, it serves you very, very well. But you can't drive a dirt bike on the water.
Right.
It doesn't work very well. It's the same. That's it, right? It's those survival instincts served us very well in those abusive situations or in those survival situations.
Yeah.
Now, we're not in survival situations anymore. There is no wolf at my door.
Right.
I'm good. There's no person abusing me. I'm not currently in danger, so I shouldn't be in survival mode either.
And I think when you say, we're not talking you're not talking just about danger, like physical danger, right?
Yeah.
There's just that
Emotional danger, right?
Yes. Right. The radar in my body is like danger, 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 but it doesn't have to be physical. It can be mental. It can be emotional. It can be, and it served me well. Now I also know that once in a while, and it's very rare now, but I still try to slip there sometimes, and it's not an intentional I'm trying to slip there, but I'll feel it creep up, and it will be wait, don't sit in that, what are you doing, get up, step away from it.
That's what today has been. Today has been full of, wait, why am I replaying this? Wait, why am I frustrated? Wait, things are going well on my stuff today. Why am I feeling negative? What am I negative about? What am I down about? Oh, I don't know. Well, why am I down then? Right? Just having those conversations with myself and trying to figure out why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And do I actually feel that? Or am I just wrapped up in this automatic thought process?
You said something that we haven't actually talked about in a while. But you kept saying, why am I this? Why am I this? Why am I this? And we've talked before about the 5 whys. And is that kind of how you navigate through? And you did
Always.
today? Okay.
Always. That has become second nature. I feel something once I realize I feel it, right? So we'll go back to that example from this morning where I was realizing I felt frustrated. From the conversation that I had with this person lasted maybe 2 minutes. I walked away from him maybe 30 seconds later. I started the frustrated feeling, and that lasted for about 3 minutes. And I was able to go, wait a minute, why am I frustrated? Okay, I'm frustrated because he was frustrated. Okay, but am I frustrated because of how he talked to me? No, not really. He was frustrated. Of course he had a little bit of an attitude. I get an attitude when I'm frustrated too. Am I frustrated with what he said? No, what he said makes sense. Am I frustrated with the look on his face? Yeah, I didn't really like the way he looked at me, but that's just a look on somebody's face. Do I really want to waste my time being frustrated? Nah, alright, I'm good. I'm not frustrated anymore. And that is what I did with there were probably 8 different situations today that I had to do that with.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you first about the past. And so in the past, when you would have to do this, was it more conscious? Why this? Why this? Why this? And then now, do you have to still do that? Why this? Why this? Or does it just kind of automatically happen now?
So 3 years ago, I would have not asked why. I would have simply been wrapped up in the frustration, which would have led into anger, and all of those 8 different situations would have spiraled into each other, and it would have been this great big giant mountain of drama and stress, and it would have been a horrible day.
Okay.
A year ago, I would have had to catch myself after, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a half a day of feeling frustrated, and intentionally write it down, ask myself, focus on it, take a break from my job and be like, okay, I'm frustrated. What's the answer to this? How do I not be frustrated? Well, whenever there's something wrong, it's within me, right? Whenever I feel disturbed, there's something wrong within me. So it's right. And I would have to go through that entire thought process, which would then lead into the, okay, well, why? Now, 3 years in to codependency, doing the 12 steps, I've done it, I don't even know how many times, 4 times I think at this point, maybe 5, as well as doing it daily on different situations and regularly, as well as sponsoring and having a sponsor. Now, that process took me a total of 3 minutes from maybe 4 minutes from frustration to letting go. And I was able to do it 8 different times and let it go each time. And I'm still smiling and peaceful and not all wrapped up in the codependency and the craziness.
Now I have another question about this, because I was just, as I'm processing this, what you're saying, my question would be, why don't we do the same thing with the happy, the good, right? And I think about my situation today, and I'm like, I could be still asking myself the why am I happy? Why does it make me feel accomplished? Why does it make me feel pride? Why does it make me feel these things? Because I think we always look at the negatives, but why do we not analyze the good too?
Do you know it's funny that you say that? It's funny that you say that because at I don't know, early afternoon, sometime after lunch, my boss's boss pulled me aside today to tell me how proud he is of me and how amazing I'm doing on this project. And I said, thank you, I really appreciate that. I gotta run, I got a million things to do.
Yes.
And I never thought about it again. Till just now, till you just said that, I thought about all those 8 other negative things and how I had to work through them and I had to work to let them go. But that compliment, I heard it, took it, and just left it.
Yeah. And shouldn't we be asking ourselves, why did that make me? Why? Like, right? Because it's almost like we celebrate the negative.
Right. Well, so I know why I don't ask myself that with the positives.
Okay.
Because if I were to ask myself why I felt what I did about the positive, what I felt about it, first I would have to figure out what I felt about such a great compliment, right? The VP of the company pull you into the office and tell you what a great job you're doing and how proud he is of you. First I would have to figure out how I feel about that. That's a good question. Right? But then I would have to ask myself all of the whys. And I'm sure that somewhere in those whys of why I'm not feeling the pride in that I should feel would be something to do with self-worth.
Right. Exactly.
And you can hear me struggle
Uh-huh.
with coming up with, I don't typically struggle for words, but I struggle with coming up with even a label to that feeling because it would create this awareness that I would really have to look at. And I'm telling you, it's funny. I'm almost breaking out into laughter as I say this because there is like a physical wall when I try to explore this. Like, nope, you're not ready. Not going to happen. And it's like running right up against a brick wall.
And I get that because like that's like right once I would I like I did this like little happy dance, like I was happy, right? Because it's like, of course now I don't. And just real quick, I don't have to. I struggled with this one manager, my manager at work, and I'm no longer going to be working with her, and so I'm very excited about that. So, and it's like, it's like I did this little happy dance because, right? It's like, oh, thank God, right? That's the big relief through my of my codependency, but looking at like the things that my AVP, my like what she said, I understand that wall because like it's a very much of I don't feel worthy. But then if I look at the other side of of knowing myself and the negatives, right, I feel less than. So it's like, God, how messed up is this? Like the good, I don't feel worthy. The bad, I feel more appropriately, and makes me feel less than. So really, it's my personal self-worth, right? I deserve the good, but I think that's something that I struggle with is not believing that I like. And when I say believing, I mean truly in my heart and my mind, and like I deserve it.
I think for me, as I sit here and talk about this, I agree 100% with what you're saying. I think back to why I didn't feel pride in his compliment, and the reason I can come up with that my brain will let me, like when I hit that wall, the only thing as I try to peek over the top of the wall or climb around it, the only thing I can find is I haven't completed it yet. Why am I proud of myself? Why be proud of something that's not done yet? It's not successful. It was just one successful day. And that is literally taking and just trashing the compliment.
Right? Because it goes back to what we talked about last podcast, right? Was where you felt like a failure. We were talking about how you felt like a failure, and it was something related to work. And it's like, why would you feel like a failure? You didn't fail.
Right.
Right. And this is the same thing. It's like, he's not saying good job on completing the project, good job on being done. He's just saying your progress so far has been acknowledged, and we noticed how much you've gotten done. So great job this far.
Right, absolutely. And just like you were saying, it has to do with being able to look at something like our own self-worth, and it's much easier to beat ourselves up than it is to lift ourselves up.
Right.
And I wish I understood why. I personally think it has to do with society. And really, it's much easier to give somebody a put down than it is to give them a compliment.
Right. I know for me growing up, right, especially with my dad, right, things were never good enough. I was never good enough. Everything I did could have been better. Or it was the opposite extreme, especially like with my grades. Right, my grades were just nobody cared what I did in school. Like, oh, nobody even like, I didn't come home with maybe in elementary school younger because I didn't know any better, but like as I got older, like if I did a project or I did something and I got a good grade on it, nobody cared, nobody asked, nobody kept track of what I was doing. I know, right, as a mom having kids that have done those things, I would take pride in my kids and knew when they had projects going on and would ask them how it's going and ask them how it went. I didn't have that growing up. And if I did, I don't remember it. I'm going to say that. I don't want to say that it never happened. It's not something I recall ever happening for me.
Right. You know that you didn't care whether or not you got a good or bad grade because it seemed as though nobody noticed.
Right. And so now it's kind of, there's nobody to celebrate my wins, I feel like, so I don't celebrate the wins. And what I need to realize is I'm enough to celebrate those wins. I'm enough to celebrate the good jobs.
Right. And see, I think it's important not enough of us realize that we alone are enough to celebrate with. And for me, it's a little bit different, I think. For me, it was always, you did great, but don't ever settle. Don't be happy with what you got because you should always strive for more. Don't settle for where you are. Strive to do better. And the way I took that in and what I learned from that was what I've done isn't good enough. I need to do more. And I don't necessarily think that that was the way it was intended, but that was definitely the way I took it in. So even now, right, when my boss comes to me halfway through the project and says, "You've done a great job," I'm like, "Nope, don't you be happy with where you're at. You're not done yet. You need to strive for more."
Right.
And I think that that's what I tell myself when I hear a compliment like that.
Interesting. And it makes sense. It makes sense that why you would do that. Yeah.
So I think that what today showed me and what I learned from today, looking back on it and taking the inventory of my day, I mentioned that there were about 7 or 8 different negative things that happened. And I had to examine them and let them go. And I did, and I was successful. And I am still in a positive frame of mind. What I learned from that is, if I take each thing by itself, I can handle it with no problem. But if I take thing 1, thing 2, and thing 3 and put them together and pretend that they're the same thing, or pretend that they're somehow linked, allow these thoughts in my head to let me believe that the issue in the warehouse and the issue with my project and the issue in manufacturing all had something to do with each other because everybody was chatting or because one person didn't do their job and so it spiraled. So everything's linked, right?
Right.
It makes it much, much harder to deal with if I allow them to spin into each other.
But don't we I know that for me, it's like even in personal relationships, let's say I would have a fight with my ex-husband, right? He would do something, like I would get mad about something. But then, right, then later, a week later, he would do something else, but I would be like, well, if he would have, it's kind of like it piles on top of each other and piles on. And so then, right, it gets to this point where it's like it's unmanageable. Because it's become so big and now it's unmanageable because it's just so massive.
Right. So
Go ahead.
if I put this in a dog training analogy, right? I use these levels of energy to teach my clients to understand their dog. If you start at a level 0 and you introduce something that's an excited level 50, your dog ends up at a level 50. But if you start at an energy level of 50 where the dog's spinning in circles and yapping, and then you introduce something that has an excitement level of 50, now your dog's at 100.
Okay.
But if you were at 0, he would only be at 50. I think it's the same thing, right? If I take this one thing and I deal with it and I'm back to 0. And then I take this one thing and I deal with it and I'm back to 0. But if I take this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, now I'm at 5. And that's a whole different ballgame to try to come down from.
So how would you tackle looking at them individually? I mean, I know you've been doing this a while, so like you could do it after each kind of real quickly and after each situation as you're walking away or whatever. But let's say somebody hasn't been doing it for a while and hasn't kind of gotten it down a little bit, and it's in their personal lives, in their relationship, or with a relationship with a partner, or a relationship with their parent. How do you go about tackling 20 things? No, I'm going to just say 5 things in a day. How do you go about tackling that? What does that look like to work through them?
It's hard. It looks like a mess because you have to untangle it first, right?
What do you mean by untangle it?
I have to realize that these 5 things are 5 separate things. I can't look at the forest and not see the trees. If I need to chop down the forest, I have to chop it down 1 tree at a time. I cannot chop down 5 trees at once. So I have to first be willing to allow myself to see that me and my mom got in a fight over coffee this morning, and now we're fighting over lunch, and then we fought over dinner. This is not that we fight over every single thing we need to eat all the time. This is, we fought over this happened, this is what I feel. We fought over lunch, this happened, this is what I feel. We fought over dinner, this is what happened, this is what I feel.
Let's say you don't have time through your day to process that. What would you say would be a good way to do that, maybe at the end of the day?
Right, do an inventory. You do an inventory on yourself at the end of the day.
So do you? Because what I'm thinking is like, right, the way not to do it would be, I'm just going to grab a piece of paper and I'm just going to start about writing everything that all about everything that happened today. I think there is, like you said, it's an inventory. It's almost like a list.
I mean, I think you could start it and just write everything that happened, but you can't stop there. Because acknowledging everything that happened is important. You have to do that, but that's only the first step. The second step is to untangle what it was, right? This is everything that happened. Let me just put it on a piece of paper and I'm just going to write it out. It's a journal entry about all the crap that happened today. Now I need to read over that journal entry and I need to examine situation number 1, and how did I feel? Why did I feel that way? And then situation number 2, and and then once I know how I felt and why I felt that way, then I need to examine, like, what am I blaming? Am I acknowledging my inventory, or am I pointing my finger at somebody else and saying it's their fault? There's, like, each step has 5 or 6 steps of its own. Mm-hmm. So yes, we need to take our inventory. We need to write down, we need to take an inventory of what happened. Then we need to take an inventory of what is and is not connected as intentionally and calmly and rationally as we can, because the minute we get emotional, we aren't seeing clearly. Right? I know I do not see.
You're right.
If I'm angry, I see through anger glasses. If I'm happy, I see through happy glasses. You find what it is that you look for. We need to untangle all of that. We need to figure out awareness. We need to figure out what is what and what we think about that thing.
I'm thinking about going back, going back to the five whys. I'm thinking, right, once you untangle it, once you get the each of the, let's say five things that happened today, right, maybe working the five whys on each one of those five things.
Right, absolutely, yes.
So would it be, all right, here's number one, Mom and I fought at breakfast. Would it be, why did we fight at breakfast? Would that be my next question? What would be my next? Okay.
Why did we fight at breakfast? We fought because I wanted toast and she made eggs and toast and used all the bread.
Well, then would the next question be, why did I want eggs?
Not really. The next question would be, why did we fight about toast that she ate?
Okay. And then would it be like, and I'm asking, like,
right. So if you said why, so if somebody asked me, well, why did we fight about toast that she ate? Well, we fought about the toast because it felt like she was being selfish and not considering my feelings because I wanted the toast and she knew that. Okay. Well, why did you think it was selfish? Why did I think it was selfish and inconsiderate for her to eat toast that she wanted? Well, because she should have thought about what I wanted before she thought about what she wanted. Well, when you go to eat dinner, when I go to eat dinner, do I think about what somebody else wants? When I go to eat breakfast, do I think about what somebody else wants before I make my breakfast? And there we go. I am the one being selfish because I expected her to think about me before she made her breakfast.
Would be, why am I being selfish? Right? I think that would be like the whole point is, I don't think you have to stop at five whys, but I don't always think it takes five whys.
Right.
But I do think you have to keep going until you get to the root of your feelings around whatever is going on. Because if I just stop at I'm being selfish, and every time I'm always stopping at I'm being selfish, well, why am I being selfish? Like, I think you have to keep going with it to get to the point where whatever the root cause of that selfishness is and what.
Absolutely.
You can't just stop halfway through with the whys. You got to keep pressing on. Maybe you can't do that. Like five things happened today. And maybe tonight I don't have the time to be able to work through all five things. And I think that's why it's important to write it down, right? You said writing, kind of getting it on paper and then taking the five things. And nobody's saying put it off for a long period of time. I don't think you should put it off because then you kind of forget what that felt like. But you gotta keep coming back to it, and you gotta keep processing the whys until you get to the root cause. Because what I have found in my own recovery, most everything that I go through comes back to my self-worth, my not feeling good enough. That's always seems to be the common denominator.
Yeah, I definitely think it is important to do the five whys, and I think it's okay to wait sometimes, but I also think it's extremely important to make taking my own inventory be a priority.
Yes.
And I think that, really, what does it take? An hour max? I have a super busy schedule. I can put bedtime off 45 minutes if that's what I need to in order to fill out this and be self-aware.
And I know that, right, as we do it more often, it gets easier. So maybe the first few times it does take longer than normal. But the more you do it and the more you get used to it, like, then you get to the point where you are today, where in 3 minutes you've literally worked it from start to finish, like, right, felt it, let it go, and kept it moving. But that only comes with practice.
It comes with intentional
Yes.
practice. And with that being said, I think it's important to note that practice means failing and getting up and trying again.
Right.
Like, that is the key to practice. It is not failure if I try again. It's only practice. But if I don't try again, it is failure.
Now, I have one sponsee who there was a period of time, like in the beginning, she was all gung ho. Then she went through this period of kind of a drop off. And it was a lot of, I don't feel like it. I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like it. What do you think about that I don't feel like it part of recovery?
I think it's a big part of it.
Okay, I do too.
Think that it's an important part to push through. I think that recovery is hard. It is all consuming. It is physical, it is emotional, it is mental, it is draining, and a lot of times you wake up with an emotional hangover at the beginning. But it is so worth it.
I think that's what we're talking about, like like this, and why I brought that up. Like, right, maybe I don't have. My bedtime's 9:30, and I only have 15 minutes. Right, it is pushing through. It's like maybe okay, I only have 15 minutes to bed, but maybe tonight I'll just stay up till 9:30 because I guarantee that I have made excuses to stay up later for stupider stuff.
Heck yeah. Well, and listen, do you think I wanted to stop and acknowledge that I was frustrated with that person this morning because of me and not because of him? Right? Like, I didn't want it. It was in the moment, I wanted to be frustrated. I wanted to go gripe and complain to my coworkers and tell them what a butthead that guy just was. And I wanted to be frustrated because it was easier. It was the first thought that popped into my head, and it would have been very natural to just go with it. But that's not who I want to be. And if that's not who I want to be, then I have to choose to take the road less traveled, to take the path that is a little more difficult, and to stop mid-vent and say, actually, guys, I'm just talking crap. He didn't really do anything that wrong.
Right.
I have to be willing to. And if I'm not willing to, then I also have to face the fact that I'm not wanting to recover.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think about when you're saying that he didn't do really anything wrong and you were just frustrated, right? I think that carrying that over into a personal relationship, I think that's sometimes what I've done, and I think we all have done with a partner or a parent, right? Oh, this person frustrated me, and I'm going to hang on to that. They frustrated me. And then I'm going to add on to they frustrated me, and I'm going to add on to they frustrated me. And then eventually I can't carry all that frustration, and it breaks my back, and usually it'll break the relationship.
Or, what we do a lot
ahead.
of times is we just say, they're annoying.
Oh, yes.
We don't even realize that we are frustrated. We put all the blame on them. They are annoying. They screwed up. They did it wrong.
Yep.
And we just pile it onto them.
Yep.
Like we have no say in how we feel.
Right. And isn't it okay to go back to someone and say, I'm sorry, I was short. I found myself frustrated?
So here's another story. It's so funny that you say all this. I love it. This morning, again today, the very first thing I walked into work, and I have shared multiple times about my issues with God and the Catholic Church on here.
Yeah.
I walked in and there was some thing playing on the Bluetooth speaker. It was a Joel Osteen podcast.
Oh, okay.
He's a preacher, for anybody that doesn't know. I don't know if it's Catholic or Christian, but very Bible-based, very...
Yeah. He's a Bible
religion,
thumper. He's in
yes.
Texas. Yeah.
Very, very much Bible-based. Throw it at you, shove it down your throat, or at least that's how I heard it. And so I walked up to this person, and I was like, hey, whose stuff is playing? And he was like, it's mine. And I was like, did you ask anybody if they wanted to be preached at this morning? And he kind of looked at me with a look of surprise on his face. And he was like, no. And I was like, I'm sorry, would you mind turning that down? And I turned around and I walked away. About 20 minutes later, I came back to him and I said, listen, I am really sorry that I came at you like that. I did not mean to be so offensive. I was up in my head and I wasn't thinking about what I was saying, and I just blurted it out before I thought it through. I'm really sorry that I came at you like that. And he responded, "Oh man, I understand. No big deal. It's okay."
Right,
But-
he didn't call you a bitch. He didn't hate you.
No,
he didn't,
not at all.
He didn't stop talking to you forever.
Not at all. In fact, I would say he probably respected me more because I came back and apologized.
Exactly. Right.
And
Right. It's saying I'm sorry or apologizing for something that I did wrong or did not handle in the best manner has nothing to do with my worth.
not at all. Not at all, not even a little bit. In fact, being able to take that accountability shows that I am
Worth.
have high worth.
Right.
And there's other times where somebody says, "Hey, did you say that?" And a lot of times people will shy away even though they said it. Like, "Oh, no, I didn't say
Oh,
that."
I would never say anything like that.
And another one of those situations happened today. "Hey, did you say this?" And I was like, "Yeah, yes, I absolutely said that. And I'm sorry it got turned back on you and came back at you this way. But this is what I said, and this is what I meant." And the person was like, "Oh, I totally understand that. I agree with you 100%. Let me go back and tell them that I agree with you." And I would have done that. And if I had shied away from it, like, "Oh no, I never said that. I don't know what they're talking about," that would have been a whole nother situation of going to a meeting and did you say this and did they say this and who did what. And instead I just owned it and didn't apologize for it because I meant it.
Right. But you cleared up what you meant. Like, owning it, yes, I said it. This is why I said it. And they're like, "Oh, I agree with you." Right. That right there is like, that's just freedom. We talk, like, one of the promise number 4 is I know a new freedom. A new freedom comes in a lot of different ways, and a lot of different situations can provide that new freedom. And I think what you found today in all of these different situations was a freedom from that situation.
And it was a new freedom.
Yeah.
Because I used to be that person that would have shied away and been like, "Oh no, I didn't say that. I don't know what they're talking about." Just because I was afraid of the reaction, even though in the moment when I said it, I wasn't thinking about the reaction and I meant nothing bad. Right? So, yes, in every one of these situations throughout the day today, instead of focusing on these little negative things that happened, which were really just little negative things, I was able to find a new freedom, and I was able to find peace and contentment amongst the chaos.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, great podcast tonight.
This has been a wonderful conversation.
It really has. Loved it. So thank you. Thank you for tonight, and enjoy your cruise.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
I would. So when do you officially leave? Like, when do you guys have to be to the...
So we
Ship.
walk onto the boat around noon on Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. I'm excited for it.
Fun. Very fun.
All right, Dawn, thank you
Ha-
so much for a wonderful hour, and
You too.
listeners, thank you. And have a wonderful week.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
We would like to thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Visit the Work It website at workityouareworthit.com to submit your questions and topics for future episodes. And remember, work it because you are worth it.